Good morning to you. And I know you want to see my face, but I'm not going to show my face right now because I'm doing something. And I just want to show you a little video. I want you to watch an interview with Mr. Cummings. This interview took place in 2012 at the time he was with Coca-Cola when he transferred from operation to administration. And I want you to take your time and listen. And there are a lot of good Liberians out there with ideas. Everybody left Liberia because of some reason, and their intention was to go back to Liberia. Some people remained here because of the Civil War. Some people came in the 80s. They remained here because of the coup. And I don't think that should be a crime. It should not have been a crime because everybody want to experience some greener pasture to go back to their country. And every one of us want to go back to give back to our country. But it's so sad when you leave and struggle, you apply for scholarships. Some people travel on different reasons. And when they go back home, you call them stranger. I just want you to take your time. Listen to Alex Cummings. At that time, he was not even in politics. 2012, he was with Coca-Cola and he had just transferred to Atlanta. And this guy had an interview with him and he explained. So I want you to please listen. So just stand by.
Alex Cummings, thank you very much for being with us today.
Great to be here.
I'd like to go back a little bit in history, and can you tell us what it was like to grow up in Liberia, what that experience was for you?
Yeah, it was actually quite exciting. At the time when I grew up, in relative terms, Liberia was doing well in the context of Africa. And I was fortunate to grow up in a middle-class family, so I had wonderful elementary education, high school education, lots of friends, very large extended family. So it was wonderful. I was blessed and fortunate to have grown up in Liberia when I did.
How and when did you decide to leave and do something different?
After high school, decided to go to the United States to for college education. At the time, University of Liberia was actually quite a good school, but my parents could afford it and thought the experience and exposure of living and going to school in a different country would be good for me. And so I applied and got accepted, and I went to the U.S. to study finance and economics.
At that time, did you have a sense or
one point and an engineer, and then I wanted to go into politics, and my parents said politics in Africa, and they didn't encourage it. But I always thought I'd go home and work and contribute and be with friends and family, etc. And that was the intent. In fact, after undergraduate school, Glenn, I actually returned home and worked for 2 years in the bank, Liberian Bank for Development and Investment, and then came for graduate school, and then the military took over Liberia. Things got a bit disabled, and then I decided to stay on in the States.
As we fast forward now to your responsibilities at Coke, your portfolio is very diverse. I mean, you have legal, resources, global community connections, strategic planning, infotech, et cetera, et cetera. It's a real broad scope of a position. How many people do you oversee with this?
The core group in the corporate center that I have responsibility for is about 1,800 people. And then globally, that number is about close to 3,000 within the corporation. So quite a few people. To put that number in some context, we have on what we call our core concentrate business, because we own some bottlers as well, Glenn. We have roughly close to 20,000 people globally. And so about 3,000 of those people work in the functions I have responsibility for.
Being a very diverse group of people that you oversee, what challenges do you face in a management sense?
A few. One is to find the sort of the common thread that links everything we do together. And for me, that thread is around making sure we are functionally competent, So we want to have the best lawyers, the best human resources people, the best IT talent. We want to make sure we have a service and solutions orientation to the business, so that rather than being experts for being experts' sake, we actually taking that expertise and applying to the needs of the business, and again providing solutions to help drive and grow the business. And so there's this challenge of making sure our people understand our business, they understand how what they do helps support the enterprise, and they're doing things every day that help us drive profitable growth of the enterprise. And so the challenge of doing that keeps me busy.
Is it the old adage, you don't have to be good yourself, you just have to hire good people?
Absolutely. I usually joke that I come to work and kind of walk down the hall and make sure all the folks, key people who work for me are there, and then I shut the door and read the newspaper.
Okay. Finding that common thread, how difficult is that when you're, again, going over through so many portfolios, so many different parts of the business?
Yeah. Well, there were two challenges. I mean, because one challenge there was just finding the rhythm of how the center worked versus the operating piece. And I think now, after the first 6 months, I was able to figure that out. So that was a personal challenge. And then the challenge is everybody to understand their role in portfolio, how what they do helps support the business, how what they help in partners or our colleagues in the operating side of we doing legal affects what happens in human resources or in accounting or in IT, how it affects our colleagues in the field, and there's an ongoing challenge to make sure those connections are there. Enterprise working with functions is looking at functions in a similar way.
You said a very interesting phrase that
tension between the field, folks in the operating units, and the people in the center. And part of why I was asked to take on this role was to try to bridge that gap and to try to bring a better sense in the center of how we can support the field, as opposed to being empires unto ourselves, if you will. And the reality is, we can bring this together much closer, but definition is going to be different. The rhythms are different. The people in the center tend to be more medium to long-term focused, as it should be. People tend to be more focused on the next quarter, the next month, as they should be. So while there's a natural bridge that says we're all working towards driving shareholder value, the rhythms of the decisions you make when you make the impact it has is actually different. So for me personally, it's just market share, product quality, etc., to where in a sense there's a bit more medium term. It's a bit more creating the processes, the environment that enable the operating guys to be successful at what they do, guys and girls to be successful at what they do.
This multi-headed animal that you have to now control or wrestle with or find the natural tension, as you mentioned, did you learn those skills when in university or post-university, or is that on-the-job training?
It's on-the-job training. It's from experience. It's from getting your fingers burned. It's about being practical, learning. And what school does for you, education, is it helps you think. So good education helps you to think, ask questions, to help you create frameworks, help you create processes. But it's all, at the end of the day, is on-the-job training. And so any success I've had so far, it has only been about 18 months in this role, it's all because of the experience and what you learn on the job and the mistakes you make and the successes you had that enables you to manage this sort of multi-headed monster, if you will.
So giving advice to students at INSEAD or other graduate programs who may be studying or even newly promoted workers in a company that might be facing them, navigate those waters?
First of all, I'll say early on in your career, it's got to be all about learning. And the more experience you get early on, the better prepared you'd be to lead an organization. And so oftentimes students focus on new people coming into organization, focus on getting promoted vertically. And that's important, that's not unimportant. But I encourage people early on to learn, to be willing to take horizontal moves, to be willing to move geographically, to get different experience in different geographies. And so my success, if I could be a bit immodest, has been because I've focused on learning. I try not to look too far ahead in terms of next career move. I do look ahead, but I don't spend too much time doing that. I focus on the current role and doing the best I can in the current role, and I focus on continuously learning, even today. And so I encourage people in school who are looking to go back into the workforce to spend time learning, take horizontal moves, move geographically, go into different functions, and learn the total enterprise. Understand the business you work for, how it actually makes money, how it generates economic value, and then bring your skills to help to enhance that.
Japanese companies for decades have famously started people at the lowest part of the company and then moved them around, not just up, but around the company. Do you think that model needs to be embraced more often? Are people today too focused on climbing straight up the corporate ladder?
I do. I do believe people, and you can move across functions and or stay within a particular function and still get very broad experience within the particular function. So if you're in finance, for example, you can spend some time in treasury, you can spend some time in tax, you can spend some time on the cost accounting side, for example, and so on and so forth. And so again, I do endorse the Japanese model of making sure people get broad experiences before they get promoted. Not to dismiss the fact that getting promoted is important as well, because it's a measure of success. But early on, I think learn. And that's the biggest message I would give to students at ANSIAD.
So coming back to a management style, would you say you have a particular type of style? And if so, what is it?
I think my style is one of humility, one of a knowledge of that I don't know it all, and I don't pretend to. My style is principle based. And I believe you have to lead in this world, I think. And then it's not good or bad, it's just different. There are some people who come to relationships, situations where you have to earn their trust. Engage people. I don't micromanage. At least I don't think I do. And it's all about enabling and empowering your people to be the best they can be. And then everybody gets the credit for it, for the success.
You joined Coca-Cola in '97, I think. What changes have you seen in the corporate culture since that time? You've worked in a variety of different roles in different countries. What have you seen change?
Well, when I joined Coca-Cola was at a transition stage, because right after I joined, we lost a very famous, successful chairman and CEO, Roberto Quezada, and we had two chairmen and CEO period. We have some challenges with our period between, I would say, between '97 when I joined, 2004, we have turned the business around. Our relationships with our bottlers are a lot better than they were today. We are back focused on winning, and so we describe today having a winning culture. We believe in ourselves. We believe in the enterprise. We believe in what we do. We're much to communities where we work in business. In doing some things that we did pre-97 before and those things about people, about community, about optimism, about believing in ourselves, believing in the categories we sell. We sort of lost that for a while, and now we've gotten that back.
How do you bring those basic qualities back. Sometimes those are tough ones to reinstill after they've been lost.
It's all about leadership. It's all about the leaders recognizing qualities that will make them successful. And then all of that reinforces that the things you're doing are the right things to do to drive the business.
You've done very well for yourself in this company. I was looking at one of your tax filings that's readily available online. You're a wealthy man, I think you could say, or you've done extremely. Are you an embodiment of an American success story?
I am. You know, I often say the United States is the best country in the world. It's got challenges and problems, and everybody knows those are. Frankly, I'm sure there's any country in the world, you know, could go to the United States and do as well as I've done. And so I've been very fortunate, very blessed to have had the opportunities I've had. And only in the U.S. I think I could have gotten those opportunities. And Coca-Cola is a very diverse corporation. We're in over 200 countries in the world. I believe our leadership, I don't know this quickly. I'm pretty sure leadership is perhaps the most of any corporation in the world. Our chairman and CEOs, we have a few Americans we throw in there, our CFO, our chief head of marketing, but a truly diverse organization that embraces diversity. And so I think Coke is also unique in a way, in terms of the diversity of the employee base.
If you don't mind, let's talk a little bit more about Africa. Mm-hmm. You're a big supporter of Africa causes, notably AfriCare. Do you see enough African or African American executives trying to support and promote the continent in a way that is really useful and progressive?
Not enough. I would say there's clearly some African organization that does that. African American Institute that I'm also on, or was on the board, does that. So there's a lot of good work happening with African Americans and Africans in trying to help the continent. But we can always do more. We can always do better. And I would say perhaps there's an opportunity to do more than is happening today. But you also have to understand that African Americans have challenges as well that they have to address domestically. And so it makes it perhaps difficult to support Africa as much as I would like to see that happen. And the same is true for Africans. The continent is challenged, but can we do more? Absolutely. Should we do more? Yes.
And I don't mean to put it in racial terms because it's a problem that I think everyone can contribute to. The reason I mention it in that sort of wording is just because there are so many African Americans and Africans who have done extremely well in a corporate sense globally, not just in the U.S. And many of them do take time to support causes, and yet it seems like the problems in Africa still remain from generation to generation.
Yeah. But I don't think it's because Africans perhaps are not giving back enough. They are not. And there's an opportunity to teach people about philanthropy, both African Americans, I think, and Africans. Again, the U.S. is unique in that sense, where philanthropy is so well ingrained, if you will, even the tax system supports giving. That's not true in the rest of the world, perhaps a bit more so in Europe, I think, but the rest of the world, not so much so. But I think the promise of Africa, at the end of the day, Africa's problems, is about leadership in Africa. And until Africans demand the sort of leadership they need to fix their problems, we will have the continuous issues you suggest, Glenn. So we can look to the rest of the world to fix our problems in Africa. Yes, they can help. Yes, perhaps they should help. But Africans got to say, you know what, we're not going to make excuses for ourselves. We're going to tackle the problems and we're going to solve the problems. You know, when I went to Nigeria, running our Coke business in Nigeria, one of the things I said to the team, I said, look, infrastructure is tough. power, water, all of these things. And I said, look, but that's our reality. It was that way last year. It's that way today. And unfortunately, it'll be that way next year. So we got to adapt. We got to do what we need to do in the context of this environment. And unless people take that attitude, Africans take that attitude, the continent will never move ahead. So we need to own changing Africa. And until we do, can't depend on the West to do that for us.
Well, with so many sought-after natural resources on the continent and so many, let's say, less than honorable forces at work within the continent, how do people truly break through that, and how do you make a sea change of in economy, in culture, lifestyle? It just seems like so many of the problems are insurmountable.
They're very difficult, but there are examples, and again, it comes back to leadership. And there are examples in Africa of countries that are doing relatively well compared to the rest. Botswana, Uganda, Tanzania, Mali, Senegal, and you could find fault with every one of those models or their leaders because they're not perfect, but they're all making progress. South Africa, go in the right direction. Again, you can find tons of fault, just as you can with the U.S. So the fact is, there are examples of countries that are moving in the right direction, that are making progress, albeit more slowly than we'd like. And there are no silver bullets. There's no easy answer, but it can happen. But it's about leadership. It's about getting 3, 4, 5 key people in every country, and you can change it. It's true in corporations. Corporations that are in trouble, if you get the right, that's why CEOs get paid so much money, because they make bad calls, and the repercussions, the domino impact is huge. And similarly, when they make right decisions, but you get the right leader who get the few right people in the right positions, and in time you can change countries, you can change enterprises, and that's what Africa needs, is the right leadership.
As you look externally, trying to help or make a difference internally, what can Coke and other multinationals, really do to encourage an active business environment without getting sucked into the local or the national problems of countries, whether it's corruption, degradation of natural resources, making the gap larger in poverty, and how can companies isn't it a tricky equation to get involved?
Not really. Something I'm proud to say, Coke does a relatively good job in this area, in almost every geography in the world. And speaking in Africa specifically, we've done compared to most multinational, a relatively good job of giving back, whether it is through our Coke Africa Foundation, whether it is encouraging employee volunteerism across the continent. We actually focus on giving back on sustainability across the world, because our enterprise, our business is only as good as the communities where we live and work and where we sell our product. And we actually believe it's a virtuous circle. You engage the community, you help the community, you help empower the community. As they create wealth for the community, they buy more Coke, Fanta, Sprite, heaven and earth, etc., etc. Can we do more? Yes. Can other multinationals do more? Yes. But I think increasingly multinationals are realizing that they have to play a role in helping to solve the problems of the world. And this trifecta of business, government, and civil society working together, I think, is the key to solving the world's problems. Easier said than done. Not enough progress being made, but there's a recognition, I think, today that those 3 pieces have to work if we're going to move the world ahead. And Coke is very actively engaged around the world in working with a bunch of NGOs to actually help and support Haiti. Company is very engaged with the Red Cross, providing water directly to victims. And the system just almost galvanizes instinctively to help. But beyond catastrophes, on an ongoing basis, we think it's a key part of our success.
Alex Cummings, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Great to be here.